Hi, I'm Nick.
Hi, I'm Kieran.
And this is the Run Tester Guide to the best carbon plate running shoes available.
So we have put in lots of miles in each of the carbon plate shoes, nearly all the carbon plate shoes that are on the market right now. And we're going to have a look through all of these shoes and help you understand which shoes might be best for which distances, whether you need any at all, and also just give you a whip through of the different types that are available.
Yes, we've kind of broken the shoes down into two groups, which is kind of the racing flat style of carbon plate shoe with, which is still fairly low profile with a plate shoved in it, and the kind of fat, chunky Vaporfly style, which is a big stack of cushioning as well. And then we're going to go through all of those shoes in turn, and then we're going to give you our verdict on what's the best for each distance, in our opinion. Okay, so first up we have shoes that we've kind of classified as more traditional kind of racing flat style shoes.
Yeah, and I think, although a lot of these shoes, the carbon shoes will be marketed together as shoes that possibly can go a marathon distance, I think having run in them, we've sort of come to the conclusion that some of these do something slightly different. And some of the reasons are that I think we've grouped these together. You can quite clearly see they tend to sort of come up a little bit narrower in terms of the fit. They tend to have less cushioning, less of that super foam, and also they tend to run a little bit firmer, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I guess, moving on from that, you sort of feel like you get a little bit less protection from these that might not make them so comfortable for some people over longer distances. And I think that's, for me, where they fall a little bit more into faster, shorter shoes for most people.
Yeah.
Although they might be marathon shoes for some very able, fast people, right?
So I would say, if you're someone who's been running a marathon in something like the Zoom Streak or the Takumi Sen, the Adidas shoe, like really, really stripped back racing flats, you might want to go straight up to a fat stack shoe. This is kind of in between, I'd say, is probably where they sit. So the first up we're going to look at is the Asics METARACER Tokyo, which is the best looking shoe of all of them.
It's got a nice colour to it, isn't it?
So this differs from the others in that it's only got a carbon plate under the forefoot of the shoe. It's only from the kind of midfoot on, and it is also the plate is put under the foam rather than kind of sandwiched in it, which it is in nearly all the other carbon plate shoes. But this is the shoe that I really liked using for sessions and short races, and I think you've quite enjoyed as well.
I've enjoyed it. It's such a strange shoe for me. When I first put it on, it felt really odd and uncomfortable. I quite often judge shoes initially by if they disappear on the foot when you first put them on. And then when I ran in it, it felt lovely. And it was actually one of those shoes where I wasn't sure it was going to feel nice when I got running, but it did. I definitely felt like it was a shoe that I would sort of take to the track to do faster, shorter stuff for me. I'm kind of like a 3-hour marathon runner, and I don't probably do as much kind of high tempo serious training as Nick does, but I would use this really as my kind of fast training shoe.
So I early on quite liked it for speed sessions, and then I kept using it for sessions, and I just kept liking it more and more and more, to the point where I had a 5k time trial recently, and I went for this shoe. I had a terrible race. I went for a sub 16 and only ran 2k and just stopped. But I don't think I'm going to blame the METARACER for that. The point is, I think it's a really, really good session shoe. And one thing it has that basically no other shoe we're going to talk about today has is this outsole with just a crazy amount of grip for a racing flat. It's not just loads of rubber. It's the first session I ran in this was 400s and 800s on just flooded pavements. And I didn't even think about the time, but I came back and went, oh, I didn't have any problems with grip at any stage here. And there's no other shoe on this video that you could say that about, I don't think. It's really kind of an all-weather speed shoe, but like I say, it's still not got enough cushioning probably for me for the marathon, I don't think.
It does. I always say this, every video I'm going to say this that we put on the channel, I've got big wide fat feet and it comes up a little bit narrow on me initially. Yeah,
it's narrow and long as well.
It is narrow and long, so I think even I'm an 8.5, ran in an 8.5, and the idea of sizing up made me feel like it might be too long on me. The cloud boom, slightly different here. You've actually got a carbon infused plate, so it's 50%?
I think it's 50%. I think all of them are kind of carbon infused, but Honor the only one who really told us that it is. I think because basically they said 100% carbon plate would snap, and that's probably the case for most of these shoes, but it's carbon infused / carbon, it's still firm.
And you can see it, they've made a detail of it, you can see it running right through here, and then either side of the carbon infused plate you've got 2 sections of midsole foam. And that classic kind of on cloud tech. And I think we've come up against this shoe, and I feel like all 4 of the run testers have run in this, and we had mixed views on how this performed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the one who likes it the most, and I still wouldn't go near a marathon in it. Like, I did 15 miles in this shoe, and my legs, it's really, I could feel the forefoot hurting after about 11 miles. And then next couple of days, my calves were achy. It wasn't like an all-out 15 miler. It's the kind of thing I do every Sunday, and my calves don't hurt, apart from when I ran in this shoe.
So around about here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right there, where there's, that's where the main impact was going through. I did a 10-mile run in them, and actually I started to feel that, 6 or 7 miles in, I was very, very conscious of it. And again, I'm with Nick on this. I think you could run. My preference would be like a 5k, 10k in these. I think you could stretch to a fast half marathon if you're like me, sort of 3-hour marathon runner. I don't think that I would put these out over a full marathon.
No, I think even in a half, again, like you could run in it okay, but there are better shoes that are going to protect you more. And even in a half, you want a little bit of protection just to make sure you're running hard at the end and you're not just thinking about how much your legs hurt.
And then what about these bad boys from HOKA?
That's the HOKA Carbon Rocket. Now this is a 1mm drop, or it's basically a spike for the road is how I'd view it. It's incredibly firm. It's got a carbon plate in it. There is no give in this shoe. It is brutal on the legs, but it is fast. It's actually surprisingly not as lightweight as it looks because it's got a bit of foam there. It kind of actually comes up fairly similar to like the On, to about 240 grams in my size, but it's quick. And I think if you're a very, very good runner who runs fast 5Ks on the track in spikes and 10Ks on the track in spikes, you could use that on the road. I wouldn't use it myself. I found 45 minutes into a run, my feet would hurt and I'd be beat up. It's not built for kind of that cush ride. It's clearly separated to the Carbon X in their roundup as just a faster shoe. So Kieran, what are we moving on to now?
Yeah, so now we're moving on to, I think, the classic sort of carbon plate idea. These are the shoes that you think of when you talk about carbon plate shoes, really. That's where it started with, with Nike. And we've got things that have got, a much higher stack of super foam cushioning, carbon plate running through the middle, often sort of super lightweight mesh uppers. And I guess these shoes are shoes that you would really consider for running half marathons, mainly marathons, and then even at the other end we've got the Carbon X, which is something that's supposed to be taking you into ultra territory. So these are shoes that I think you're thinking seriously about marathon racing, and really that's the territory we're getting into.
So we might as well start with the one basically to beat.
Yeah.
The Vaporfly is a shoe that I've run my best half marathon in, I've run my best marathon in, even that wasn't my quickest marathon.
Tell them how fast.
Well, I ran a 2:36 and then I ran a 2:33 in the old 4%, but that was on a flatter course.
So slow.
And you used the shoe for your recent sub 3s?
I did. My PB is a marathon in these, which is a 2:57.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If you run a PB in a pair of shoes, they tend to become a favourite by proxy. But
it's fair to say we love these shoes.
Yeah.
So if we say a shoe is better here, we're not just dissing this shoe. This is this has been a favourite shoe for like a year and a half, really. It's very lightweight. It's got the vapor weave upper. It's the most lightweight of all of these. It's fair to say. My UK size 9 comes in under 200 grams. None of the others really come close. It's almost like they've changed with the new generation into accepting another 30 grams for a bit more cushioning. Even though this is as cushioned as it gets, really. It's ZoomX foam all the way through, which is the best foam on the market still, probably. Very soft, very bouncy, very lightweight. And yeah, it's very hard to run badly in the shoe, almost.
Yeah. I mean, when I ran in these, there were things that I wasn't so keen on. Like I wasn't so keen on the vapor weave uppers that I felt were a bit sort of baggy and a bit
weird. Offset laces as well.
The offset laces, I don't know. For me, when I was looking down at my feet, which Nick tells me I shouldn't, if I didn't, maybe I'd run a 2:30. But I found it slightly weirdly disorientating, only for a split second. But there's just little details like that I wasn't so keen on. I think in some of the other shoes have uppers that I maybe prefer, but. These are great shoes, and they're shoes that I really enjoy running in. They're shoes that I think instantly make you want to run fast.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to.
Yeah. Let's go on to Nike, or Nike, as I call them incorrectly. Their attempt to basically supersede the Vaporfly, and they've basically just made a pretty weird shoe even weirder, it's fair to say. It's got the Air Zoom pods under the forefoot. That's the key change in this shoe. They're firmer, more responsive. As you roll from this very, very big chunk of ZoomX foam, soft foam, onto the forefoot, you get a bit more pop, and you kind of, in theory, it should make your that transition a bit faster and a bit poppier off the forefoot when you're running. Kieran, you ran in these for the first time today.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Like Nick has had these, and I swapped them out today and got to run them for the first time. And it's a very different sensation when you first put them on, even I think, than the Vaporfly. You definitely feel that there's more cushioning under there, and it feels a little bit more like you're running on a platform to me. They are poppy, and I did enjoy them. I think they're sort of slightly odd when you rock back if you can't keep that sort of full marathon tilt pace going. Yeah. I think they become slightly difficult to run in, other than some of these shoes here. But I did enjoy them. I thought the uppers were much more comfortable. I found it very difficult to get them on.
It took about 10 minutes.
Like to the point where these are my size, but I really struggled to get my foot in. It was like putting on a really tight Wellington boot.
So I definitely agree with Kieran. Like if you at the end of a rep or a race, your form starts to go, and you start running not with your feet landing under yourself, you can slightly go off form, off course in these shoes with that big chunk. I love these shoes, I'm going to say. So I ran easy in them and I didn't get why Nike had made these changes. Then I did some reps in them and I started doing like virtual races in them. And when you're up at pace, running with your feet landing under yourself, rolling through, they're so smooth, they're so comfortable. And if you don't look at them, it feels like you're wearing a very, very small, lightweight shoe. You look down, you go, oh my God, look at those.
You are, I mean, it's an interesting point because you are aware.
Yeah.
From visually how big these shoes are, you know, it is very different than wearing something that's a bit. Even I think with the ADIOS, ADIZERO Pro, they feel like a sort of smaller, normal shoe, right? That's something that you're conscious of.
These are exaggerated. They're the kind of almost not all of this Nike tech taken to its logical, if slightly mad conclusion, but they are fantastic. They're very fun to run in. They're very expensive and very hard to get, but. Yeah, I think Nike has improved the Vaporfly with the Alphafly, but I don't think this is a shoe that will work for everyone just because it's so much stuff on the back here. If you're landing on your forefoot beautifully throughout like a 5K race, why would you want this, is what I guess people might think. Yeah. Let's go on to the big contender from Adidas, finally kind of coming into this area, which is a shoe that Kieran's had recently to test.
Yeah, so I've put in about 50 miles in these shoes now, and I mean, we've been waiting for Adi to come up with a shoe that would take them somewhere near to these guys. And I would say in this shoe, they've finally got there. They're moving towards that kind of bracket. And though these, I didn't find these have the same amount of pop as a Vaporfly, or actually as the Alphafly, I do think they're a really interesting shoe and they are really fun to run in. And I think they are a good kind of faster cruising shoe, right, or whatever. You know, they're a good shoe that you can hack out fast miles in.
Yeah.
Would they be your first pick for a marathon race still in this lineup?
It's hard to know.
I don't know. And you got to run in them for the first time today as well, Nick.
Yeah. So I think they feel more like the Alphafly than the Vaporfly for me. Yeah. They feel a bit firmer because they haven't got. I mean, we don't really know what this foam's made of, the Adidas foam, but it's nice. It's certainly comfortable.
So it's Light Strike Pro, which I believe is different to the Light Strike that you'll find in the SL20.
But it's definitely much less firm than the SL20, obviously. And I found I didn't have the same, like you, I didn't feel like I was going from heel to toe and then popping off the forefoot as explosively as I do in one of the Nike shoes. But I think, I did an hour's run and did kind of second half around 6-minute miles, and it felt good just cruising at that pace. You know, it's kind of, I'd like to do more miles in it, and I'd certainly like to try out some reps. You've done like 400-meter reps in them and stuff like that, and it's an interesting, and I think it's a huge step forward for Adidas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's going in the right direction. There's a few things in there that look like a prototype. The sole of the shoe is just insane looking to me. That almost entirely smooth rubber. Yeah, and even after a few miles, you can see that rubber. It did have a few more grooves in it, and it's sort of started to smooth off already. So durability is going to be an interesting one on this. I mean, I'm also intrigued by the cutaway at the heel. Yeah. Which, when you first put them on, these shoes, the Vaporfly sort of tend to get you up on your forefoot straight away. These don't. They sort of either sit you flat, or for me, they sort of rock me back and out a little bit. And it's just a different sensation, which I wasn't expecting. Yeah. And I think, you know, it feels like these are flatter to run in. It does feel like a slight, like that slight rock back feel. It doesn't feel like it's throwing you forward like some of these shoes do, but it doesn't make you slower necessarily, I don't think. It's just a different sensation. But I don't think I'd be keen on a 5K in these, but I think you could cruise a marathon quite comfortably in them. I think a lot of people will find these a good marathon shoe to run in, actually. They're a bit more of a utility shoe for that. Definitely. For me. There's a bit more versatility in these, I would say. And I think the thing about that is if you went out in a shoe like this with high hopes in a marathon and it all goes wrong, as it can,
there's not much to fall back on with these, right?
You're not going to cruise in really comfortably.
These, I think you might, there is a little bit of a safety net.
Yeah, so
that's how I felt.
So next time you do your knee in a marathon and walk 35k like you did in Paris, you want to be wearing those shoes.
I have done walked 35k in a pair of Vaporflies. So now to talk about the Brooks Hyperion Elite 2. We only got our hands on this after we'd filmed with all of the other shoes, but we wanted to conclude this because it's one of the most important carbon racers that's come out this year. So Nick, tell us what's new about this versus the Elite 1.
So the Elite 1 was a bit of a disappointment, basically, to be frank. We actually had it, because this is basically now a cushioned Vaporfly style shoe. The Elite 1 was actually almost felt like a racing flat. It was so firm. It was very lightweight, had a big stack, but the EVA foam they used, ADIZERO, was very hard, and I didn't really enjoy it for anything longer than about 40 minutes. But what Brooks has done is brought the DNA Flash foam from very good shoes like the Hyperion Tempo training shoe and the Brooks Catamount trail shoe into their Elite shoe. This is a nitrogen-infused EVA. It's very light. It's still responsive, fast. It's softer and springier than ADIZERO. And the net result is you've got a shoe that's far more fit to take on the likes of the Vaporfly. It's still really light. It's 223 grams in my size, which is heavier than the Elite 1, which is very close to 200. But it's still very lightweight. And it's just a far better shoe, basically. And basically, as soon as we got the hands on the Hyperion Tempo, everyone was waiting for Brooks to put this foam in their top shoe, which they have now done.
You've done a few more miles in this than I have. I've done about 10 to test this out at different paces. But what's been your experience so far?
So far, I've mostly done quite short but very fast stuff for me anyway. Like I've done a track session in it, doing like several different 2Ks, closing with, I think the last mile of the last kind of rep was done in about a 5-minute mile. And then I did a 10K in 35 minutes in the shoe, kind of alternating 350, 320 per K pace. And it's really blown me away, basically. I really like the shoe just because it doesn't feel like, to me, like something like a soft and springy Vaporfly or even the Saucony rolling shoe. It just feels like a shoe that disappears on the foot, but you're going very, very fast and you finish really strong, I find, in runs. I think it's doing the same job in terms of protecting the body and improving efficiency, but without that kind of noticeable, sponginess in a way.
I think that was it was a bit of a surprise for me because all of these shoes, they tend to feel different on the foot, don't they? They don't feel like a normal shoe. This is the one that feels most traditional, I think. But I noticed in some of the runs, I did a 5-miler. I'd had a bit of a break from running and I was doing miles about 30 seconds quicker than I thought I should have been able to for the effort that I was putting in. And I was surprised when I got back and saw my stats, but they don't feel like you're putting on a pair of special boots like you might do with the Alphafly. It's something really nice about that familiarity with these, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that these are going to shoe that's going to work for a lot of people, despite being such a high. It doesn't feel like a high stack to me. It doesn't feel unstable. It's got ridiculously wide forefoot, which I think is a really unique feature that will help in terms of stability, rounding corners. And it's just a great ride. Like, I think durability will be there. The Hyperion Tempo shoes lasted a long time for me without any signs of wear and tear. I just think basically Brooks has nailed it the first time, and which is really important because they really messed up that first shoe, I think, and they updated it immediately. They announced Hyperion Elite 2, making the change that everyone thought was really obvious, and they've now delivered a shoe that I think is fit to take on the likes of, the Nikes, the Saucony, the ADIOS Pro. But I'm not sure where I'd rank it just yet necessarily, but I think I'll probably still lean towards the Nikes. But I think it's a massive step forward for Brooks and a really good shoe.
Let's come on to the Saucony ENDORPHIN Pro. Because this is a remarkable super shoe in that it feels exactly the same as every pace for me, and that feel is brilliant. It's really different to the other shoe. It doesn't feel very squishy and bouncy. It's just all about that smooth speed roll tech in the midsole that gets you from heel to toe. And honestly, I could do every run in the shoe really happily.
So does that feel a little bit more like a traditional shoe in terms of that?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. When I first put these on, I mean, I said to you, like, wow, you feel like you're standing on
I feel like a bit of a fool, if I'm honest.
Yeah. You're really aware of that you're then going to sort of slightly be controlling that foam, right? Whereas these feel more like a normal shoe.
Exactly. I actually feel I slightly pronate in the Alphafly because it's such a high stack. These feel like a traditional shoe just done perfectly, in that you're rolling beautifully from heel to toe. You're getting a little bit of squish from the PIBA foam. It's a PIBA-based midsole, Power Run PB it's called from Saucony. But it's a firmer ride than these, but not in an unpleasant way. It's just a kind of, because you're rolling so smoothly and not getting that kind of jarring hit of firmness from the plate like you would on some of those racing flat kind of style we were talking about, It's really just a very smooth shoe, and I've done reps in the shoe, I've done a fast 5K in the shoe, I've done long runs in the shoe, and I've loved every run I've done in the shoe pretty much. This is very, very tight for me. Like, I think you could use this for any race happily. And I also heard the Endorphin Speed is very good. If we're talking about shoes that has a different kind, as a TPU plate, I think, or something, or a nylon plate. Very similar design otherwise, but you probably want the carbon just for that extra kick and propulsive feel if you are going for an all-out race.
I've not run in those, but excited. And I know Nick's a big fan, and
yeah,
I think these are one of the most exciting shoes we've seen
definitely
this year.
I think these come in a lot cheaper than the Nike, and I think a lot of people might even prefer running them just because they are a slightly more normal feeling shoe whilst still being exceptionally quick and also just boosting your efficiency that little bit.
Are they more, because I guess, you know, the other thing with these shoes, you're spending a lot of money on most of them, and the durability comes into question. And I sort of said to you earlier that there seems to be,
there's plenty of rubber there.
There's more rubber on the outside of that.
Exposed. It's interesting, it's got that Boost style look to the foam, even though it's not TPU like Boost. And you can hack out lumps of this foam if you're on like gravelly stuff, which I have done, which is stupid. But the actual forefoot's quite durable. I actually think the Alphafly is going to be pretty durable, and I've always found the Nike shoes to be more durable than they're kind of painted as. Yeah. I've got my first pair of 4%. I've got several hundred miles on, and they are a wreck, but you can still run fast in them. They still don't lose their edge, I don't think. But the outsole just get ripped to shreds. Let's do the Carbon X. What do you reckon to this then?
I really like it. I mean, I will veer into ultras. I do quite a lot of ultras, and actually, it's light. I think the uppers are super comfortable. The carbon plate and the cushioning combination isn't overbearing. It's quite relaxed, but you are aware of it, and I think it's a really nice sensation. And again, I think this puts us in a bracket of a pair of shoes that you could probably pop on more often than just when you're racing. You could go out and do sort of more regular runs in this. Yeah. Rather than these, you're going to be saving for a sort of special occasion. A special occasion when you're actually going to be good enough to run fast in them, but also because that's the way they're sort of geared up for. I think this has got good versatility in it. I think it's a really good shoe.
It's very stable as well, which you can't be safe for all of these shoes. I actually would put this in the category for me because I don't go ultra and I've got my marathon shoes sorted elsewhere. This is a trainer for me. It's a great long run shoe when you want to kick up the pace at the end and feel kind of secure but fast and comfortable. It's more of a day-to-day shoe. You could do a lot of miles in this shoe. It's not a lot of, I think youth feel the same way. I don't think you should be using carbon plate shoes for all your training, especially these soft bouncy ones. It's a very weird, unstable feeling. Save it for fast running. The Carbon X is a bit of an exception. You could do all your running in this, I think, and I don't think you'd really suffer for it. Yeah, I think it's got a very familiar sort of HOKA feel. You know, your foot sits nicely down in the sort of bed of the shoe. The uppers sort of wrap nicely. Yeah. And you get a kind of, there's a good roll through, and I really enjoy running in those shoes. It's got a distinct advantage out of almost every shoe here, and that it's also nearly always available. But we will say we haven't tested the Carbon X SBE, which is the new version this year. It's only £10 more. The differences there are all in the upper though. We like this upper. I'm sure the next one's just as nice, but the underfoot feel will be exactly the same. And I think just the last final point on this is when you're choosing a marathon shoe, there's a tendency to sort of, for everybody, or again, the marketing kind of engine of this to drive people to go, look, you must have this guy because this is the best marathon shoe you can possibly get. But it's not always true. This isn't necessarily the shoe for everyone. No. And actually, this one might be a really good marathon shoe for lots of people who are running, steadier marathons. You can wear it for your whole training cycle. You're not going to need a huge rotation of shoes necessarily with this. You probably only need this. You might chuck in an easy day shoe with this as well but yeah, it's not like the Alphafly, which is, that's there to cap off a superb training form when you're actually at peak position. You want to just go all out on race day, you've got this special shoe for it. This is more of a jack of all trades in a way. Yeah. This is designed to be a training companion for marathons for some people and kind of general training. It's still got the same kind of super shoe price tag though, it's £170. Although some of these are obviously 260. It's got fuel cell foam, which is very soft, very bouncy, really lovely feel to it, huge high stack. You don't feel the carbon plate in this at all, apart from a little bit of pop. A really nice upper, which is comfortable. I've done a lot of miles in the shoe. Tom has as well, loves it as well. So this is a slightly different shoe. It's designed for training, but again, the masses could easily race in this. Most people like us could definitely race in this shoe. I've got a pair for you to take away with you today. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. You haven't had a chance to run it, but yeah, I will say it'll be interesting to see what you feel. My only gripe with this shoe is that it's such a high stack of soft cushioning. For a training shoe, again, I wouldn't want to be doing all my runs in this. I think I pronate slightly in this shoe as well, just because it's so high, so soft. So I'd probably still pair it with something like a Pegasus just to really log those normal miles in. But it's a great fast shoe. It's a bit heavier than these, but it's still quick. It's still got a plate. It's still got a lovely soft feel, but it should be more durable. And to be honest, the main thing about this shoe is it really bodes well for New Balance's racing shoe. Yeah. Because FUELCELL foam is maybe the only foam on the market that I think is close to as good as Zoom X. And there should be something special coming in when New Balance does release their racing shoe. So we've talked about all the shoes. We're going to kind of give you a vague verdict here. As you can see, we've still got a lot of shoes up here, so we are going to have a lot of caveats, but we are going to tell you our favourite shoes.
Somewhere on that fence back up there.
So let's just start with, if you're running a 5K tomorrow, kind of gun to your head, what shoe are you going to run in, Kieran?
I'm going to go for that one.
There we go.
And actually, that's the Asics METARACER.
I am also going to run in the Asics METARACER for my 5K. Two reasons for me. One is it's very light, very fast. The second is that grip. Yep. Over 5K, I think that's going to be telling much more than the kind of economy efficiency gains that you get from these shoes. Over 5K, I'm hoping I don't need a huge running economy gain. I just want speed and I want grip when I'm going through corners. I
think it's going to last longer as well. So if that's the kind of thing that you're regularly going to be doing in training, you want a shoe that's going to be able to put up with some bashing, and that looks like it will.
I also just want to give Asics massive credit for managing to make a fairly low profile shoe that's still comfortable when a lot of other brands we've talked about haven't managed that with a carbon plate, and they did that by sacrificing the full length plate, which a lot of people weren't prepared to do, and just doing it in the forefoot. Yeah. Now, every other distance I have one shoe I'd use just for my races. Would you divide your shoes up, or for every other distance would you?
It's a little bit difficult for me because I've only done a little bit of time in this one.
Yeah.
In the Alphafly, so I think at the moment I would still for half marathon, full marathon,
10K as well, or
and probably 10K as well. Yeah, I would go for the Vaporfly.
I think that's an important thing to stress is here. A lot of people who are looking at super shoes will already have a Vaporfly. I'm not sure there's enough in any of these shoes where you need to go out tomorrow and spend your money not that you can, but you need to, because none of them are ever available, but if they are available, you don't have to go and spend your money to upgrade. The Vaporfly is still very close to the performance of the top shoes. That said, for every distance from 10K up, I am going to be running in the Alphafly now. There's the proviso that if it's a very wet day and I'm on a course that does this, I might not wear the Alphafly because of that huge thing. But generally, I think it's just that little bit better for me. But I can see how this wouldn't work for everyone just because of that huge stack. So yeah, that's my pick for 10K to marathon. And for beyond the marathon, what would you? For
beyond the marathon, I think if I were looking at something that was sort of flatter, involved a bit more road, like a non-mountain ultra, then I would definitely go Carbon X. I know some people have actually stepped into these to do ultras, but I think this is a good sort of long run, comfortable sort of ultra shoe.
But I would say with the HOKA Carbon X, we do think that that's a very good just shoe for people in general running marathons. A good training shoe, can do a lot of stuff. You know, these are quite distinctive race day shoes, and that's the other reason we've got the Endorphin Pro here. And because we haven't talked about price yet really, and this is cheaper significantly than the Nike shoes. This is a real bona fide super shoe for £190. You can do a lot of training in, you can race in, it won't feel weird compared to like these do, it's very smooth. I do think this is quite a democratic shoe, and if it's ever available, it's probably the one that might work for most people on that kind of balance of price, performance and feel on the road. So I do think it's worth highlighting how great this shoe is, and it would be very close for me about where I'd use this or this in a marathon. So I thought we should flag that one up as well, even if it's not my current top pick. And there's one other you want to talk about quickly.
And then I guess the last one really is the ADIOS, ADIZERO, Adi something or other.
ADIOS is the key word there.
ADIOS, the ADIOS Pro. It's the ADIOS Pro. I think it deserves a kind of honourable mention because although it's not quite up to the standard for this, if I were choosing between these two, I would still go Vaporfly. I think this one's just got a bit more pop. But I think it's getting closer, and I also think it sort of veers into the sort of more democratic sort of bracket as well. And I think there's a lot of people who could run marathons and be happy that they're wearing this and not this when they get deep into that marathon race.
That is our carbon plate guide. There's a few shoes here we haven't mentioned that are very popular. There's various reasons for that. Skechers shoes are supposed to be amazing. They don't really seem to be available in the UK. There's the Speed Elite, something like that everyone raves about. Please tell us how great it is. We haven't had a chance to run in it, unfortunately. Same goes for the Adidas ADIZERO Pro. It's like a racing flat with a plate, I think. So again, that would be in our other category, a bit firmer. And then the New Balance RC out this autumn also should be very good. But we haven't run in them, so we haven't talked about them. We've done a lot of miles in these. But yeah, that's kind of all we have to say, really.
And if you have any questions, as ever, hit us up in the comments. We want to hear from you. We'll answer as many as we can around all of these shoes. We're happy to help you find the ones that are right for you. And there's something else they've got to do, Nick. I can't remember what it is.
We've got to like, subscribe, ring the bell. We'll also say, we obviously have gone through these shoes quite quickly. We have review videos for a lot of these. We have multi-test reviews, especially for things like the METARACER and the On Cloud Boom. Go and dive into those if you want more detail, or just ask us. We'll try and tell you. Goodbye.
Bye.